Hey, John, thanks for taking my call.
You got it. So we talked back in September. Refresh us. What's going on in your life back in September?
All right, so back then, my question was, hey, my wife gave me an ultimatum, have a third baby, or possibly she was walking. I called in to get a couple of tools from you. I used a couple of those, but now I'm coming back to the well to see if they have any more knowledge for me as I continue to navigate through this.
Were my recommendations not great? It's okay if they weren't.
Well, no, you're fantastic, but I find myself in kind of another odd predicament with her. But I'll unpack it however you think would be most useful to you.
So tell me about today's call. What's going on?
So the main point was we got to a point in that discussion over the third baby, which is really a proxy battle for me kind of capitulating to anything that she wants and her going nuclear, so to speak, if she didn't get what she wants. We got to the end of that, and it came to that sort of lights up conversation that we had. And I said, listen, however we got here, the important thing is that I think we try to build something new. So I kind of established I wanted to build something new. I wanted to put away all of the insecurities, all the issues we had, kind of put those down and just start something new. And she never really said if she was in or out. She was very upset in that moment, obviously. But then a couple of days went by where she was sad. And since then, she's been normal-ish, but not affectionate. So it's almost like she's in, but she doesn't want to say she's in because she's still kind of punishing me because she'll never forgive me. And I don't know how to re-engage it and say, hey, 3 months ago, we had this weird conversation about whether you're going to leave or not. You never really said if you're leaving. So it's kind of walking on this anxious eggshells all the time. Like, are you just going to leave or what's going on?
So what has stopped you from sitting down and having, I wouldn't have been able to sleep for 3 months with the looming potential, separation. What has kept you from sitting down over dinner and being like, hey, you mentioned you were leaving. Are we all in? Are you in?
So honestly, the reason why I haven't brought it up to her again isn't because I'm afraid she said she's going to leave. I don't actually think she's going to leave, and she's not going to say that. But I think the problem is, based on how our relationship goes, she's never going to ever say she's all in because she has to have that over my head because she's been using that for several years. I could leave if you don't do X, Y, Z. So I feel like if I bring up the conversation, hey, let's resurrect this terrible conversation from a few months ago, she'll just be like, oh, I mean, obviously I'm in, but I don't know, maybe a year from now I'll be unhappy. So she'll never give me any resolution to it. That's why I don't bring it up because it's all right. I mean, maybe the other part of that, and just to finish this point is, and I said this to her, if we go forward and we're not having another baby, I understand it's going to change the family picture that you had in your mind, but there'll be a season of grieving in your life, which I'm all in to help you with and walk with you through that. So I don't know if this is okay, she's kind of getting to acceptance her own way and she's in her grieving process, but how long do I let that go before I go, hey, we can't live in an affectionate-less relationship forever because we're normal day to day, but there's just no affection on her part. It's just no, done. She's kind of checked out in that way. So it's just odd.
It pains me to say what I'm about to say because it kind of violates one of my core tenets. Is that okay?
Get after it.
Your wife is incredibly immature.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got a close buddy that was telling me about this amazing therapist he has, and he said, what's so great is my therapist kind of his wife interpreter. And I was like, what does that mean? It's well, my wife will say things, and the therapist will be like, well, here's what she actually means, and it's so great. And I said, no, your therapist sucks. Because you're not supposed to have an interpreter. Right. You're supposed to learn to be mature and just say the thing.
Yeah.
Right? And be an adult. And if somebody is always threatening to leave you, they have left.
Yeah.
They're out. And they aren't in. And so you can't build anything. All you can do is be drugged behind whatever truck she's driving down the road.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I would tell you is she's not being a person of fidelity in your marriage.
Yeah.
Right?
In this way, correct, yes.
She's not sleeping with somebody. But
sure.
This is
I know what you mean.
This is the same thing. You're like, yeah, she's not sleeping with anybody. Here's the thing. It's similar to guys who spend every waking moment that they're not at work on the golf course.
Yeah.
And their wife is getting just scraps.
Yeah.
And then when you call them on it, they're like, what? Are you kidding me? For real? I do all this? And it's that. That's not being a person. That's cheating. You're just cheating with the golf course. Right?
Yeah.
What's happening to you is the same thing. It's just, hey, are you said you're going to leave me and these two kids. Are you going to leave? Oh no, I don't know, man. Maybe that's infidelity. That's cheating. That is not giving you her full self, and so you're eating you're just feeding on scraps, and you're starving to death.
Yeah, I think that's completely true. And to kind of give you a little more depth on that, she's created this devious way in which she doesn't say I don't know if she actually said directly, I believe, but she very strongly intimates that, and she knows that that's my greatest fear. But then when I've brought this up to her throughout the process, the other kind of smaller fights before this nuclear one, I directly articulate I'm afraid that you will leave if I don't give you what you want. And she would kind of almost do this, not to overuse the word, but gaslight, oh, why would I leave? I'm not going to leave. And then we get to the next fight, and she's like, I really can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do. And so it's she never says I will leave, but she lays that thought in my head. And the reason why she'll never say, hey, listen, Devin, I'm all in, is because if she does that, she's putting down that weapon she's always had, which she knows is my greatest insecurity. I'm afraid you're going to leave.
So what if you what if you take all the bullets out of that weapon?
How so?
We're recording this. We're coming up on the new year.
Yes.
What if you let her know today, I've got childcare, and we're going to take a Saturday and part of a Sunday, and you and I are going to map out 2025 together. And here's how we're going to map it out. We're going to map it out in 4 ways. We're going to spend the morning talking about how we see each other. We're going to talk about things that we see the other person doing that are great. Then we're going to go to another restaurant. We're going to go get coffee. We're going to get morning brunch or whatever. And we're going to talk about known. What are the things going on in your guts? Are you happy in this home that we're creating together? How can we love each other better? And both people get to speak. Then we're going to go to lunch. And then either during lunch or after lunch, we're going to talk about celebration. Who do we want to be this year? What's that going to look like? Identity. How are we going to celebrate each other? How are we going to cheer each other on and become each other's biggest cheerleaders? And then the 4th one is nuts and bolts. How are we going to make this thing happen? What must go away so that this new year becomes true? Seeing, known, celebrate, and challenge.
Okay.
And let's say you put that on paper. Forget her little threats. If you think those threats they're toothless tigers, then at some point you have to be the adult and say, all right, whatever, I'm going to keep going. Because y'all are in this weird dance where she loses power, and so she pokes, and you overcorrect. She's going to leave, and you shut down for a month, and she gets back on top, and then you slowly start becoming a great husband again, and you're back engaged with the kids, whatever. And then she feels like she's losing it, so she's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I think she looked into, I don't think that she necessarily looked into divorce or anything, but I think she's envisioned that, and she realized how hard it is. So now she's not planning actively leaving. But my concern is that the next time, 3 months from now, she's like, hey, let's do whatever. And I go, oh, we can't do that. Then she's not getting what she wants. She's not getting fed that. Then it's going to be another fight. And then this will come up at some point. But to your point about, if I may, the kind of the retreat you laid out, I kind of did that in a sense, not as well as you did, obviously, because you do this for a living. But during the past month of us being in this weird dance was our wedding anniversary. So I got us a room at a hotel with a restaurant, just kind of have almost a start over type retreat thing. Kind of with what you just kind of laid out in a framework in mind, but not as well. And she declined. And she's like, well, we shouldn't go away together. It's not a good idea. And I said, why? And she's like, well, because we have all these problems. And I was like, I just kind of walked. I was like, okay, whatever you want to do, but I don't have to cancel the reservation until, X day. So then she waits until that day and she goes, all right, we can do it. We can go, but we have to talk about things. And I said, okay. And then we went and we did it. We didn't talk about things. I didn't bring it up, to be fair, but I was kind of waiting, like, where are you going with this? So we just had like a decent evening, but I was like, well, why didn't we do this? What's going on? Like, are you not wanting to talk about it? Are you over? I keep trying to read tea leaves, which is stupid.
Go right through them.
Situation.
Because here's the thing. If she's going to leave you, she's going to leave you.
I totally agree.
I think she's already left you. She's just left you in your own house. She's left you physically. She's left you emotionally. She's left you spiritually. She's left you. She's moved out. She just did the math. She probably sat with somebody and they did math. And she's like, oh, I'd have to go to work.
Well, and so if I could just expand on that for a second, not that I'm great about anything, but like I do roughly 9 out of 10 things in the house. So like meals, cleaning, cooking, I do so much. So I feel like she probably thought, oh, my life would be much more difficult. Might as well just live here and have him do everything. But I feel like if I stand up and like pull back a little bit in what I'm doing, because I'm also overwhelmed with the amount of stuff I'm doing, because it's completely unbalanced, then I always feel like she's going to leave. So everything is kind of through the lens of like, if I stop doing this one nice thing I do, is she going to leave? And I have to get like regain my personal agency and take power back in my life. But I don't know. I'm so like terrified now after years of dealing with this and this very acute, like recent situation. I just don't even know how to start except saying like, hey, one of the stories of that conversation from a few months ago, what are you doing? Are you leaving? And then I feel like it won't be resolved because she'll just kind of be like, well, maybe I will. I don't know. So
okay, let's flip the whole thing around then.
Okay.
We're going to go on a retreat and we're going to talk about 2025. And that's when you lay out in 2025, Devin, I'm committed to being well, to being the best father and the best husband I can be. And that means I have to be honest about my time. I have to be honest about my work. I have to be honest about my commitment here at home, domestically, like with chores and stuff like that, and how I am seeking to be the best person I can be. Exercise, sleep, and all that. So beginning January 3rd or January 1st or whenever, I'm no longer doing X, Y, and Z. I'm going to do dinner. I'm going to do my laundry. I'll do the kids' laundry. I will make the bed in the morning. I'll mow the lawn. I'm going to ask you to be responsible for after dinner cleanup. We can figure out who's going to go to the grocery store. We can figure that out. Or you start nailing these things down. But if you do it as punishment, then you become her.
Correct. That's my problem. Yeah.
We're not doing it for punishment. We're doing it so that you can be whole finally. You've never been whole in this relationship.
Mm-mm.
And so you have to hear me say you're worth being whole. And here's the thing. My buddy Henry Cloud, like the GOAT psychologist, right? Who wrote the book Boundaries. He has a great story about talking with a father about his son who's just living this crazy life. And he says, I don't know what to do. I give my son everything. I give my son everything. I give my son everything. And Dr. Cloud has this great response. He said, it sounds like your son needs to get some problems.
Yeah.
And so your wife doesn't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you continue to cash out every bit of agency you have because this isn't a whole relationship. She's not a person of fidelity. And so what you have to say is, okay, this year, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not making dinner anymore. No more laundry. No. When I look at my calendar, I will exercise for an hour a day. I will take my kids to breakfast and then get them to school twice a week. I will work, and I'm also going to get that graduate degree I've been thinking about. And so here's what that's going to cost, and here's what time that's going to take. So here's going to be the jobs left undone that as the co-creator of this household, is going to be your responsibility. Are you in? And by the way, now that we're here, what are the things you need to be whole this year? And how can I help scaffold those things? How can I walk alongside you? How can I love you better? And what you're going to get is somebody feeling in real time, this isn't just a power play anymore. This isn't just sitting on the couch lobbing grenades. I may not be here tomorrow. It's not that. This is like, hours, time, commitment, participation, accountability, the stuff marriage is made of. And here's the thing, you got to hear me say this. She's already left you. And so your plans aren't working. Your attempts to take hold and to get her to not leave, they're not working. She's already left. She just still lives at the house and you pay for everything. The goal here is to say, you deserve to be married to a man that is whole, who can show up and protect and provide and do all these things and be totally connected to you. Here's what I'm going to need to do that. And I deserve to be married to somebody who's whole, who wants all in on this thing. What do you need? I'll do everything I can in my power to make that true. My guess is that it's just going to, it's kind of like you have a really dirty windshield and you're flying down the highway at 95 miles an hour and you're afraid you're about to go off a cliff. And you're scared if you clean off this windshield, it's going to show you that you're going off a cliff. It might, but the reality is you don't know where you're going because the windshield's so dirty. So we're going to get in a room and we're going to clear off the windshield. And maybe you're finding that you've already driven off the cliff and your car is just spinning its wheels as it's careening towards the ground. Or you might find out that there's hundreds of miles of empty road ahead of you that you can keep driving together. But she has no incentive to change her life because she likes her life as it is, because she does nothing. She just pulls you around on a leash. And she's always got this atom bomb in her pocket, which is, well, maybe I just won't be here tomorrow. And for you, it's, all right, that's not going to hold power over me anymore. I'm going to go do the next right thing so that I can be whole. And that's the only path you'll have towards hope, towards building something new. Is saying, here's the role I'm going to play in building. Here's the role I am asking you to build, to take on in our building. Are you in? And dude, call me after this meeting. Call me after it, because this is going to be a truth-telling, a clearing. And maybe there's some ground rules, no leaving, no grenade throwing, no bombs, no what. We're just going to lay this thing out here. I need both of us to be adults in this thing. It's been a tough, tough year. And I've been chasing you forever. I'm going to stop chasing. We're going to anchor in.